Fire retardants. Sound like a good idea.
Sure, they put out fires.
But or do they? Because we want to prevent the fires. And we're surrounded by these flame retardants, and they mimic estrogen, and they're disrupting our hormones. We're going to talk about why fire retardants are bad and what they're doing to us and our children.
Right, good point. There's a lot of need for fire retardants, but there's not a lot of need for fire retardants that cause the problems that these fluorinated fire retardants cause. There was a study that was published in August of 2013 in the journal called Environmental Health Perspectives that looked at this. And basically, they had a new technology that looked at crystallography. And they looked at the way the biochemistry works in the human body with these fluorinated fire retardants. What they found is that these fire retardants fit right into a receptor site for estrogen in our body. And when it does that, it blocks the effect of the natural estrogen, but has another kind of effect that's caused by it because it's a slightly different molecule.
So these xenoestrogens are actually affecting growth and development and a stress response and energy levels. We call them xenoestrogens.
Right. Another name for estrogen, but not one that's found in the body. And then also we have other sources for these xenoestrogens. We get it from petroleum products and from pesticides and from plastics. And when you look at the amount of these substances that are in our environment, we're getting a real load of estrogen. So you wonder why kids are having their puberty at age 7 or 8 some of the time, and why there's such a high incidence of breast cancer and other estrogen-sensitive cancers.
Well, these flame retardants are used in all kinds of things, like you were saying, but they're used they're in cars, and they're in upholstered furniture, and they're in mattresses and foam, and they're in our dust. They get in the dust, and they're in our and they even get in our food. They're in our clothes. They're in kids' pajamas. I remember when they first came out, and I thought it was such a great idea, especially at Christmas time, to put my kids in these cute little pajamas and not worry about them, near the fireplace and all that kind of thing. But what happens is that they end up emitting formaldehyde.
Some of them do.
Yeah, so that's not a healthy thing either. And little kids especially, they're always putting their hands in their mouth for every reason imaginable, and
they
eating
actually have
everything.
higher levels of these things than adults do.
And they're in carpets, and
it's hard to avoid. Fires are important. We certainly don't want to burn to death, but we've got to do something that's different to find a fire retardant that isn't dangerous to our health.
Well, we also need standards. In Europe and in Japan, their levels of the fire retardants in their systems are 10 times less than they are in the Americans.
So there's something we can do about it, but unless there's an economic incentive, in this country, we don't usually do anything to avoid these kinds of dangers because of the cost factor.
Well, we've said before, that we're living in a sea of toxins. We've got toxins in our water and our food and our air.
Right.
And so we need to start cutting back on these things and be aware of them and spread the word to other people. And we need to find safer alternatives.
Yeah, for sure. So when we're looking at this whole business of pollution, which is what we're talking about, we don't have government standards that are sufficiently high. And worse yet, we don't have people who care enough about the products that they make. If somebody can make $1 from something, you can bet they're going to, whether it's safe for us or it's something like a fire retardant, it can cause all these problems related to hormones.